What's up, y'all? You're watching Union Minded. I'm your host, Eric, and today we are going to talk some labor news updates. Specifically, we're going to talk about the railroad workers and their struggle for a fair contract. But before we get into that, don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button, drop a comment, hit share, hit the notification bell, become a part of the community, and let's educate each other. Now, according to Reuters, first off, you already know I've been covering the railroad strike for a while now, and I've been telling you it's kind of like going that way because there's the largest unions are saying no, and their members are not happy about it. And this is a case of how the negotiating team can be out of touch with what the members are feeling, because these members were very vocal that the issue was sick leave. They needed days to be able to call in sick when they're not feeling well. Now, how did they end up in this position in the first place? Is that these companies went and started cutting staff and cutting people and firing people in order to increase their profit margins. Because you got to remember, it's all about the bottom line for these owners. So they're increasing their profit margins over the years, and now here we are. The chickens are coming home to roost, and you got you got a staffing system where you need everybody to show up every single day. And if any one person can't be there, your entire operation suffers. You got one person running a 30,000 foot train. Completely unfair and unhinged, and it's the greed of the owners that put us in this situation. But here we are now, right on the verge of when the workers are about to say their piece and go on strike. And what happens? Our government sides with the owner class, because they're not sitting here trying to say these owners need to give these employees 15 paid days off so that they can be a healthy workforce. They need to hire more people so that it's safe for everybody. They're not doing that. No. What they're doing is they're saying, no, you workers need to swallow this tentative agreement that your negotiating team agreed to months ago while we were sitting at a table. But that negotiating team didn't represent everybody, because then that deal has to go back to the membership and they have to vote. And here we are now on the cusp, and this is what comes out in Reuters. U.S. House to vote to block rail strike despite labor objections, by David Shepardson and Lisa Bertain. The U.S. House of Representatives plans to vote on Wednesday to block a potential rail strike after President Joe Biden warned of the dire economic consequences of a rail disruption that could happen as early as December 9th. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said lawmakers will vote on Wednesday to impose a tentative contract deal struck in September on a dozen unions representing 115,000 workers. I don't like going against the ability of unions to strike, but weighing the equities, we must avoid a strike, she said Tuesday after a meeting with Biden. But why aren't they forcing the railroad companies to provide that adequate time off for their employees? It's just a decent thing to do. It's just a decent thing to do, because then they'll sit there, turn around and be like, oh, we care about our workforce. No, you don't. No, you don't. Stop playing yourself. No, you don't. Biden had warned Monday of a catastrophic economic impact if railroad service grounds to a halt, saying up to 765,000 Americans could lose their jobs in the first 2 weeks of a strike. So why are these owners being so damn greedy? Why are they being so greedy? And here we are, this is supposed to be the party that's representing working people. And what are they doing? They're saying, get back to work, working people. Get back to work. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're sick. It doesn't matter if you got the flu, which is really bad this season. It doesn't matter if you caught COVID and you're contagious. Get your butt back to work, because the rails must go through. The mail must go through, just like the rail must go through. And man, those shipments have to be made. Congress, I think, has to act to prevent it. It's not an easy call, but I think we have to do it. The economy is at risk, Biden said. Yeah, it's always the economy, because who gets affected? Wealthy people, the stock market. Trust me, you and me ain't getting affected by the stock market. And they'll say, oh, the retirements. Yeah, okay, sure. But who put those damn retirement accounts into the stock market also? It's all jacked up, man. And I hate that we always get sacrificed at the altar of greed. It happens all the time in every circumstance, and it's frustrating. Despite the close ties between unions and the Democratic Party, several labor leaders criticized Biden, asking Congress to impose a contract that workers in 4 out of 12 unions rejected over its lack of paid sick leave. Mind you, out of those 12 unions, the 4 that said no represent the most of the workers. The Brotherhood of Maintenance of Way employees, one of 4 unions that voted against the contract, objected to Biden's call to Congress to intervene, saying the railroad is not a place to work while you're sick. It's dangerous. It is unreasonable and unjust to insist a person perform critical work when they are unwell. And that's exactly what I'm saying. It's ridiculous. It's the most basic thing. There are no paid sick days under the tentative deal after unions asked for 15 and railroads settled on 1 personal day. Biden on Monday praised the proposed contract for including a 24% wage increase over 5 years and 5 annual 1,000 lump sum payments. Crumbs. You know how much profits the railroads made while they were firing all them people? You talking about a 24% wage increase? You could have gave me 100%. It's still not the critical issue. The issue is I can't get sick. I can't take time off. That's the issue. Regulators and shippers have accused railroads of cutting staff to improve profitability because that's what happened. The railroads oppose giving their workers paid sick time because they would have to hire more staff. Bing, 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 bing. The carriers involved include Union Pacific Corp, Berkshire Hathaways Inc., BNSF, CSX Corp., Norfolk Southern Corp., and Kansas City Southern. Biden's call for Congress to act was criticized by left-leaning lawmakers, including Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Cory Bush, as well as Republican Marco Rubio, who say the president is not acting in workers' interests. I'm surprised that some of the GOP is coming out and criticizing, but we'll take those allies where we need them, man. The fight is not left and right, it's up and down. I tell you this all the time. Figure out where you are on the economic class and you'll know what side you're supposed to be fighting on. The measure needs a simple majority to pass the House. The bill would require a supermajority of 60 out of 100 votes to pass the Senate. I can't in good conscience vote for a bill that doesn't give rail workers the paid leave they deserve, Representative Jamal Bowman, a Democrat, said on Twitter. House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy also criticized the effort, but said, I think it will pass, but it's unfortunate that this is how we're running our economy today. Don't talk that jazz unless you're going to encourage your people to vote that down. Force it onto the railroad companies. You want to show something about you being for the workers? You need to force the railroad companies to do the right thing. You can't keep sitting here forcing workers to bend and buckle. That's bull crap. Just remember, unions was the compromise in the first place between the classes 100 years ago, 130 years ago, 200 years. That fight, the compromise was unions. If unions keep getting forced to compromise further, what do we end up in? A rail traffic stoppage could freeze almost 30% of U.S. cargo shipments by weight, stoke already surging inflation, and cost the American economy as much as $2 billion per day. Let's stop with the bullshit. Inflation is a freaking joke. It's corporate greed. Profits are up through the roof. Don't sit here and play this dumb word game about talking about inflation, trying to scare people. Don't get scared by the word inflation. This is corporate greed and nothing more. And this is also an example of corporate greed and nothing more. Brian Dodge, president of the Retail Industry Leaders Association, said the idea of a rail shutdown is just absolutely catastrophic. Then pay your people. After companies spent the last year and a half trying to untangle gridlock in the supply chain, we'd be setting ourselves back down that same path, and it would take just as long to untangle the next time, he said. Let's talk about that supply chain issue. Who the hell offshored all the supply? The robber barons, the same ones that are sitting here trying to screw us again. This all boils down to the top fucking us every chance they get. It all boils down to that. Excuse my language, but that's what it is. Association of American Railroads Chief Executive Ian Jeffries said, and I quote, Congress has historically acted with haste in a highly bipartisan manner, and that's our goal again here as we sit here today. The U.S. Congress has passed laws to delay or prohibit railway and airline strikes multiple times in recent decades, and that's facts. We got to know who we're putting in office. We got to make sure that they are our allies. And another thing, we have to make sure that our unions, and if our unions are international and they're all over the place, then our locals, we have to make sure that we are getting the representation that we deserve. It's so frustrating to see that some negotiators that were negotiating the contract went into negotiations with the president and the railways and then came back with no days. We wanted 15, we came back with no days. But instead, we're going to throw you a couple bucks. Thanks. What percentage is this of the amount that you profited over the last 5 to 10 years while you were cutting our staff. It's ridiculous, and we get sacrificed all the time. We get sacrificed at every turn. You gotta be involved. You gotta be paying attention. You gotta be union minded. You gotta spread the word to each other. You gotta talk to each other, because that's the only way we're gonna fix this. This doesn't get fixed when you're looking for leadership that's selling you out. It doesn't get fixed. I'm so mad today, knowing that this is about to happen tomorrow. We got to do better, y'all. We have got to do better. Anyway, y'all remember, the fight's not left and right. It's up and down, for crying out loud. And it's going to take solidarity to win always. Each one teach one. Get out there and reach one. There can be no union without you and I front and center. Peace.